November 5th is fast approaching, according to one tally from the New York Times. Right now, there are more active legal battles about Election Day than there are days until the actual election. The latest battle is in Georgia. Democrats filed a lawsuit Monday against the state's election board to block a new rule requiring every ballot to be hand counted. The Republican-controlled board passed the rule earlier this month. Many Democrats and some Republicans, including Georgia's Attorney General and Secretary of State, have raised concerns with that. CBS News election law expert and political contributor David Becker joins me now. He's also the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research. David, it's good to be with you. We're going to go over some old ground here, but it's important. Let's start first with North Carolina. Its election board held an emergency meeting Monday to discuss any disruption caused by Hurricane Helene. What's your sense of how bad that could be? North Carolina is obviously a battleground state. It's quite close in the polling there. How do you think this could affect it?
Yeah, good evening, John. I spoke to election officials in North Carolina today. It's going to take some time to fully assess the damage, particularly in about 24 counties in the western part of the state. Things are not great there right now. Roads are blocked, flooded, gas, food, water, cell service is still coming in. It's scarce. So they're probably going to have a better sense later this week on whether facilities or equipment might have been damaged. But there is some good news here. We're still about 36 days out. Mail ballots already went out to those who had requested them. They have excellent ballot tracking in North Carolina. So if there's any problem with those, there's still plenty of time where people can vote in person if they need to, or get a replacement mail ballot if they need to. There's still plenty of time for them to get alternate equipment if they need to try to make up for any problems that might exist. They've already got a website up, ncsbe.gov/Helene, where they've got information. They'll be providing information to people. We should also remember about a dozen years ago, Hurricane Sandy hit the Mid-Atlantic region, particularly New York and New Jersey, just a week before the election, knocking out a lot of polling places, flooding polling places, reducing power, et cetera. And election officials there somehow overcame that in 2012. So this is a little more time. There's devastation in that area. Obviously, people are very concerned, but election officials are handling it best they can.
And just for anybody who might think, if you get two ballots in the mail, somehow you can't vote twice. There are plenty of procedures in place that's not going to happen.
That's correct. Every voter only has one active ballot at any given point in time. If they get a new ballot, the previous ballot was inactivated, or they have to cast a provisional ballot to ensure that the other ballot doesn't come in. There are various protections in place to ensure only one ballot is ever counted at any given point in time.
And while we're on the process of trying to kill things that are not consistent with reality, hand counting, this legal battle in Georgia over hand counting. Remind us yet again, and we're going to do this a lot, hand counting versus machine counting, which is more accurate? And you might as well kill the false claim that the voting machines are somehow hooked up to the internet or some foreign, country or something. Can you help us? Remind us of the ground truth here.
Absolutely. So first of all, voting machines are never connected to the internet. There's various protections against that. Election officials will tell you that, Republicans and Democrats, that's absolutely essential. And also we have paper ballots. So if the voting machines were ever malfunctioned or ever interfered with, we have the paper ballots, and there are audits and recounts to confirm that the machines work. 95% of all voters will be voting on paper ballots, including all of the voters in all of the battleground states in 2024. It's the same as 2020. With regard to the Georgia rule, this is a hand count of the actual ballots, not the votes, but it's being done at night after the election is over with tired poll workers, many of them senior citizens, with multiple counts. And it's very likely in that kind of circumstance that there's going to be disparities between counting the number of pieces of paper that the machines do and 3 different people might do in the precincts. And it's very likely those disparities will be used by the loser of the election to try to claim that there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's just humans, especially tired human beings, are bad at counting pieces of paper like that. Every state does make sure that the number of ballots cast equals the number of ballots counted. They just don't necessarily do it late at night on election night with tired poll workers who are exhausted. And that's why Secretary Raffensperger has said this is a very bad rule. That's why Attorney General Carr has identified that this exceeded the boundaries of the powers of the state board of elections in Georgia.
And finally, David, the former president, Donald Trump, says that non-citizens are being hurried into the country to vote. Can you just remind us, and that's also the context of some of these legal actions that are in place. Can you just remind us why that isn't happening and can't happen and won't?
Look, election officials have looked for non-citizens on the voter list. They find a very small number, and most of those are likely naturalized citizens. States like Ohio, Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas said they found a very small number of non-citizens on the rolls, and in every single one of those states, journalists within just a few days after the release of those names found naturalized citizens who were on that list. So it's likely a very small number. Then when they go to look to see if any of them voted, what they find is the number is literally zero in most cases. Georgia looked at this in 2022, found 0 cases of non-citizen voting. The states already have the tools to prevent this. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote. Voters need to provide ID when they register to vote. And non-citizens who are here, either legally or illegally, know that if they register to vote, they're going to be risking deportation and jail time to cast one ballot in an election in which 160 million are cast. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't happen. It happens extremely rarely. The protections are already in place to prevent it.
And as you've told us many times, the reason a lot of this kind of stuff comes up is to create an aura of confusion in which mischief makers can then more freely operate. Unfortunately, we're out of time. David, I'm just reminding everybody of that point you made earlier. David Becker, thank you as always.